Hello, hello, hello. It is me, your Tru Heel Phenom SP3. Welcome to our latest weekly podcast, Tru Heel Heat 124. On this edition of Tru Heel Heat, we will be discussing the latest wrestling news, including the fallout from AEW Blood and Guts, with fan outrage following the ending of the show. New Japan Pro Wrestling, Dontaku with an Will Ospreay versus Shingo Takagi, absolute banger of a match of the year candidate, and a new never openweight champion being crowned. The future of Daniel Bryan in WWE with the revelation of when his contract expired last week. The hosts will give their Mount Rushmore of post-Mania pay-per-views in lieu of WrestleMania Backlash next week, and we're going to talk about much, much more. Of course, I am back once again with the princess of all the Tru Heels, Miss Krssi Luv.
Oh yeah, we are back in the place. Hello, 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 everybody.
And this week, we are not without our resident Tru Heel alcoholic top guy, JJ. He is busy with business, so filling in his shoes is the one, the only, the man of 1,004 numbers, your co-host for Fusion of Honor, your host of Dark Power, I think it's the second longest running show on the Tru Heel Heat YouTube channel. So you gotta hand it to this gentleman right here, the one, the only, StatKing.
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me. Yeah, I think it's I think this week I did episode 75. So yeah,
wow.
Up there.
This guy put in work. It'll work. I love it. Check out Dark Power. This guy always has great analysis of everything going on in the wrestling world, but we bring him into Tru Heel Heat to force him to talk about WWE. But yes, if you are watching this right now on YouTube, drop us a like, smash that subscribe button. If you are new to the Tru Heel Heat YouTube channel, almost 35% of you watching Tru Heel Heat have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, so change that today. Hit the bell to say notified and press all so you always get notified whenever we have new content right here on Tru Heel Heat. And Tru Heel Heat 124 is brought to you by our good friends over at Battle Club Pro. They have their huge event coming up at the end of May 29th, May the Franchise Reign, where they will crown a new heavyweight franchise champion, and our sponsored athlete Darius Carter will be a part of the Field of 16 tournament, so be on the lookout for that. You can get your tickets if you're in the East Coast on brownpapertickets.com. And of course, we have to shout out our friends over at Powered 4 TV. You can watch Tru Heel Heat on Powered 4 TV, along with 25 different promotions from around the world, from the UK to Chicagoland and everything in between. And use the promo code SP3 for 50% off of your first month for Powered 4 TV. So we start off things, as always, with our Tru Heel roll call. This is for you, the supporters, everyone, all the subscribers to the Tru Heel Heat YouTube channel, and everyone supporting us on social media. First of all, we start off with our top 3 conversation starters on the Tru Heels group page. Our Tru Heel Trinity coming in at number 3 is none other than one of the guys from Powered 4 TV, my co-host on Powered 4 SP3, John Scott. Coming in at number 2 is Heels and Faces Wrestling, and coming in at number 1, he is out of retirement and he is back home, the retired jersey in the Tru Heel Trinity Hall of Fame, Nick Jackson, back at number 1. Absolutely. Couple of Tru Heels, we got to shout out Jose Gonzalez, one of our former guest hosts right here on Tru Heel Heat, Matt Harris, Nathan Wood, Drugs Delaney, and our YouTube subscriber highlight. We got a couple of good comments from our A&E biography, Macho Man Randy Savage review, which is now the most viewed video on Tru Heel Heat of all time.
I'm mad I didn't jump on that one.
1.6.
Yeah, man. I didn't know you guys. I seen it. I was doing live too late, and I was like, "Dag, I could have been on that thing." But it's all right. It's all good.
1.6 thousand of you have viewed the Macho Man Randy Savage review, so thank you so much for all the support.
Like, you guys didn't give.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't like it too much, even though I will give it credit. It was very honest, and it was more
better
honest.
than the Dark Side of the Ring, I think.
No, I wouldn't say that. No.
Okay.
No. They went dark. They went really dark for the final 45 minutes, and then they tried to bring it back onto a good page, and it never got back there. At least
it made him look like he was like a woman beat, like a abuser, a stalker.
He's a woman beating, stalking, drug abusing, steroid using, like, and this is all real. I'm not saying that it was false.
Yes.
But when you have Stone Cold Steve Austin, where they don't address his domestic violent history, they have Roddy Piper, where they don't address his drug use, and then you got Macho Man, where they address all of that. It just didn't seem balanced. And
you're right. You're absolutely
this series is done by WWE, right?
WWE working with A&E, but it's apparently from Dave Meltzer. It's all different producers and directors behind it, because apparently Dave Meltzer is going to be a part of one of these A&E biographies. So that right there tells you that WWE is not as involved as I once thought. But just the choice of putting Bubba the Love Sponge there was my biggest low light. Like, why? But yes, Kenneth Griffin commented on the review. He said the Macho Man documentary is trash compared to Austin and Piper's.
You should put it in. Yeah, okay, fine.
He says it kind of falls apart and becomes a random mock fest and goes off onto other people's stories and makes Savage look like, this is the best comment that I had to comment here. He says it makes Savage look like a wife beating, hidden camera spying, drug addict, steroid abusing, second-rate star rapist of minors. And then this random dude nobody ever heard of is like, what a great way to die. What's more savage than having a heart attack and crashing into a tree? Oh yeah, just seems awkward and rushed. Vince obviously still hates the guy for that Stephanie McMahon rumor.
That's why I was asking if WWE had a hand in it, because if they're gonna slander anybody, the things that they're doing on the list. But
I definitely can agree with everything he just said. They did make him look like he's not the legend that he is, and the things that he's done. It just really it wasn't balanced. So you're right. Maybe but the Dark Side of the Ring was more about him and Elizabeth or whatever. So I don't know, but I guess you can't talk about one without the other. So it's like you can't really mention him and just be about him because you're going to mention her. I feel like maybe 20 minutes was about her and what happened to her too.
Yeah. Like I was like, is this? That was one of the questions that I asked Romeo. I was like, is this the Macho Man E&A biography, or is this Macho Man and Elizabeth? At least Dark Side of the Ring was honest that they were telling both of their stories, but I felt like this one focused too much on Elizabeth after they split up. Which, of course, she's a part of his story, but they really made that final 40 minutes very, very, very dark. That's all I had to say. But yes, we had a more lighter comment on our Macho Man Randy Savage review. He says, yo, this was amazing. I love how Romeo was so passive with his anger for some of the stuff. But SP3 was just going wild every time Hogan or the Love Sponge entered his screen. Yes, that was a very accurate analysis of our biography review.
And yeah, I can definitely some of the people that was even on the panel, like, you didn't need Rosenberg. You didn't most of these people you didn't even need to do this story. Like, I didn't understand the celebrity that was it was WrestleMania. I mean, he's a WWE fan. I forgot his name. He's a comedian. I was like, why?
He's the one that said the line about, that's a savage way to die.
That's stupid. I didn't understand half of the people that they had on this panel. Okay, go ahead. Carry on.
The part that offended me the most and offended my girl T when I told her is Love Sponge saying that I think until the day Macho Man died, he was still in love with Elizabeth. How dare you? When his widow is watching this documentary, how dare you say something like that? Yo, there was just too many.
Why? I guess maybe the widow doesn't want to talk about it. But I was like, we got the brother, we got Lenny. But why we never get the wife's point and like, you know, when they got together, like give her side of like the softer side, because apparently that was the love of his life before he even met Elizabeth. So it's like, why are we not hearing from her? I don't, you know, maybe they didn't say, they didn't give us anything about like saying, hey, well, we reached out to her. She didn't want to be a part of this whole thing, like something like that. I mean,
yeah,
they
that
were
would make
nothing on
sense.
her.
Hey, it was pretty rough. I mean,
Gorgeous George out of nowhere.
oh man, she I will say though, I felt like she was the MVP because she let us know on a whole bunch of information that was not open to just anybody.
Right. I remember when they had on those red outfits, and I was like, yo, what is happening? And she was like, yo, we were hot. Yo, that was like aside from her finding that he was a star, you know, that whole part. But that she gave us some great intel on like what the dark side didn't do, which was like get more information like when she was there and when they were, because they were literally together. And I had liked how they transitioned to that piece, but then it, you know, just then it went really dark. So I mean, I was happy to see the Gorgeous George part, and you know, talk about him being in WCW and like what was that part about. So I can appreciate that.
And it just also seems like outside of the Austin one, these A&E biographies are not really spending that much time on the people's careers. They're more focusing on what like their careers did to their home life.
Right.
So you know, we'll see how it goes with Booker T next week. So definitely stay tuned for that. We're gonna go live on Monday for the A&E biography Booker T review. So stay tuned for that. But we got to start things off on Tru Heel Heat 124 with what we missed. And of course, what we missed was AEW Dynamite special Blood and Guts. We're going to break stuff down. We're going to talk about...
Glorified War Games.
It was more War Games than NXT has shown us in the last couple of years. Like, this felt like War Games, and the Pinnacle defeated the Inner Circle in a near 40-minute blood and guts match, with MJF threatening to toss Jericho off the cage, leading to Sammy Guevara surrendering for Inner Circle. Then MJF tossed him off the cage anyway, with Jericho landing on an obvious padded landing due to the camera angle. Horrible camera angle, but this definitely led to a bunch of fan outrage. A lot of fans being upset, saying that the whole show was ruined due to this ending and the way it was shot and the obvious cardboard landing for this move. I think that now, a couple of hours later since this whole event, we're seeing more of a balance where people are upset and saying that the camera angle was poor, but they're not upset that Jericho landed on a padded landing, because some of the original complaints when it just happened after the show, it made it sound like fans wanted to see Jericho land on concrete after you just got upset with Matt Hardy landing on concrete at All Out. So I think it all takes time. You need a couple of hours. By the time you guys are watching Tru Heel Heat 124, you probably have a better mind state about this ending. But what did you think of the match overall, Miss Krssi Luv?
It had a couple of, you know, little slips here and there, but overall it did what it needed to do, and they succeeded, I believe. I think it did. You want to see guts and blood, everything. I saw more blood than guts, but
I don't need to see any guts. I'm good. I'm good. I just want to see blood.
But I think overall it did what it needed to do. They executed very, very well for not even to be on a pay-per-view, to be on a regular Wednesday show. You understand what I'm saying? So I think they did very well for the 40 minutes that they were doing it. They did their thing. Yes. So
what would you say is your biggest highlight from the match and your biggest low light for the match?
I didn't think the ending, like where he took him up on the cage, I thought it was dumb, but you know, just still throw him over. Like that's what you were gonna do anyway, so just throw his ass off anyway. Like,
I will say the ending, I felt like it felt flat, but it made sense for MJF to be smart and be like, oh, I'm going to push him to make them surrender, because he's been in the Inner Circle and he knows the bond that they have, to the connection that they would surrender to keep Jericho safe. So I like the psychology behind it. It was just the execution.
The execution, yeah, there you go. The execution was for me the low. My highlight, I think Sammy did his thing, to be honest. I think Sammy is like my MVP of the night of that match, to be honest. I think Sammy did his thing. Sammy had a lot of like highlights that he was able to execute and do well. So I think my highlights were definitely Sammy. He did one particular move. I was like, oh, that was really good. I can't remember it right now, but
Oh, the coast to coast drop kick.
yeah, there you go. Yes. So I think Sammy would be my high for because I think he's the MVP of the night, and he had to start it off. And he was talking all that shit, so he did. They executed him very well because remember he's been gone for a little bit too, so he hasn't been in the ring. So I think they highlighted and showed him very well. Whoever put this match together did a good job.
StatKing, what was your thoughts on the match, and what would you give it star rating wise? I know we're not on the round table, but we usually see you on round table. So star rating wise, what would you give Blood and Guts?
I think I'd probably give Blood and Guts 4.25 to maybe 4.5. It had really, really strong moments. They did a lot when it came to building up Sammy Guevara as the next big baby face for the future, and for also building Wardlow as the next big heel for the future. And if those two down the road, when they're each gone from their respective groups, are ever feuding against each other, there's going to be a lot of built-in history. And that's one of the things that we need to build with AEW. Like when Ethan was doing his promo, when Ethan and Scorpio were doing their promo about Darby, and Ethan's bringing up, we've had matches in the past. There's a permanent dent in your forehead. There's a metal plate in your elbow. That's great, but we need to have those moments with AEW so that we have more of a connection with these guys. And this was a great building moment for that, for what's going to happen with Wardlow and for Sammy down the road.
Yes, good stuff all around. I mean, my main highlight, I would say, is just everything from the presentation. Just the cage. It looked more like War Games with the roof covering, and just how wide the cage is. I feel like the NXT one, in comparison, it feels much smaller, in my opinion. Maybe
it's more closed in.
Yeah, even though they don't have a roof, it feels like this one had more space. So it was kind of crazy there. I love the visual presentation of the Pinnacle coming out in all white traditional trunks, and Tully with the all white suit, and then the Inner Circle coming out in black prison gear with their cities represented on the back. I just thought that was just a beautiful touch. Santana and Ortiz coming back out with the dead president's war paint. That's basically their war paint for their big time bloody matches, it seems. Just Sammy Guevara's performance was amazing. I thought Santana and Ortiz stood out a lot because they just brought just great energy to the match. I thought that Wardlow looked like an absolute star, the way he took out all of the Inner Circle when he first came in. I thought the showdown between Hager and Wardlow was a lot of fun. The use of the turnbuckle, the use of the fork. The lowlights for me is I didn't think the unprotected chair shots were needed, and because of what we know about unprotected chair shots, it really made me cringe, a lot of those chair shots that the guys were taking. And because this is the first ever Blood and Guts, I don't think it was the right decision to have the guys come out of the cage and end the match on the roof. I felt like there was a better way to kind of accomplish this goal. Like I kind of suggested on Wrestling Daily this week that all of the Inner Circle be handcuffed to the cage, including Jericho, and the Pinnacle was beating down Sammy Guevara and about to stab him with like a stick or with even the fork, and Jericho surrenders to keep Sammy safe because that's the guy that he wanted to come back into the Inner Circle. That's the guy he picked personally to be in the Inner Circle. So I thought that would have resonated a little bit more and set up the logical MJF and Jericho matchup at Double or Nothing. This one more writes off Jericho, so we might not get the Jericho MJF matchup at Double or Nothing. It wouldn't really make sense for Jericho to come back that soon. I think that now we're going to lead into probably MJF and Sammy, due to Sammy being the one to surrender, which I am all for, because Sammy Guevara looked like an absolute star, and I agree with Krssi. He was the MVP of this matchup. But let's talk about that ending. Do you believe that the post-match botch ending killed the match and the show to you, Miss Krssi Luv?
No.
No?
No, I don't think so. It just, like I said, just had its little slips here and there, but overall the show was great. I think the Omega promo was a little long.
Well, we'll talk about that. We're just talking about Blood and Guts now.
No. So yeah, my answer is no.
What was your feeling when you saw Jericho go through the padded crash landing?
I mean, we they gotta protect you guys some kind of way, you know.
So it was really not a big deal to you.
It wasn't a big deal. Like the camera angle could have caught it a little bit better, but you know, in that moment, you know, sometimes the control people and the guys in the way, so you know, the way it comes off, it doesn't always get succeeded. But I think he landed fine. Yeah, it was padded. Like most of the time, you know, we don't want him to get concussion, and he's a man of a certain age as well, too. So, like, what more? Like he's just had this whole big match, and he's thrown to sacrifice yourself to get thrown off of that cage is a big deal in itself.
This is true. At 50 years old, at that. StatKing, do you believe the botched ending killed the show or killed the match? Maybe either to you, or do you understand why he killed it for other people?
I understand why I could kill it for other people. For me, not at all. I mean, they're live, pal. Like, I mean, they don't. This is we're talking about. I mean, wrestling itself is beautiful chaos. But when you have moments like
chaos, that's really
when
good.
you have moments like this where somebody's getting thrown off of a cage, and you're a camera person, like you know where they're aiming, but you don't know how that person's going to fall. You don't know what exactly is going to happen on impact. I'm pretty sure that they did not they tested it out to make sure that it would work, but they're not, working. They're probably not working on the camera angles while they're doing that testing out phase. So yeah, I think that's it didn't take anything away from me, but I can understand why for other people, especially people who are just looking for anything negative to try to nitpick at it. I can understand why it might be a little upsetting to them. But one thing I will say, because I didn't do a low light. Low light for me for the match would be that in certain situations it was obvious that they were getting ready to blade. That different people were getting ready to blade, and I think they could have done a little bit better to cover that up.
I agree that a lot of the blading was kind of like you can kind of see it coming a lot of times, and Jericho in particular holding the blade on the roof was kind of the one that stood out the most to me. But yeah, I think we all kind of have a reasonable viewpoint on what happened with Blood and Guts. I would say that they delivered. The ending fell flat, did not come off well, and that comes down to the production team. It doesn't come down to
right. That's what I said.
To Jericho or MJF. They did their jobs well. MJF looks like the biggest heel in pro wrestling right now, so I give it to him. And that final shot of him the bloody face on top of the roof is a shot that probably will be remembered at the end of the year. So credit to all the guys involved.
One thing I do want to ask you, though, because you were saying that you didn't think that because it was the first one, they should have gone out to the top of the cage. The reason why it made sense to me was because the purpose was to kick Jericho off the mountaintop. That was during the promos. That's what Max was talking about, and the fact that the group was called the Pinnacle. To me, I was like, they gotta, like, as soon as he started climbing, I was like, you gotta do the top of the spot because of just everything they've said. I'm just wondering how that affects what you saying.
That makes sense of a bad decision. I will give you credit. You made sense of a bad decision. I just think the first Blood and Guts, it needs to end in the cage, and it probably should end in some type of better form of a submission. I think the fork in somebody's head or going for their eye is more of a submission that leads to a surrendering than I'm gonna push him. It looked goofy and it came off.
Yeah, that's the whole that's what I didn't appreciate that part. But other than that,
I did like somebody finally giving heel Jericho what he wanted and saying thank you.
Exactly. That was perfect. A nice little turnaround, and I forgot about that, but I love MJF bringing it back. That was an awesome ending. So we got to move on to the other things that happened at Blood and Guts. We had AEW announce that Hikaru Shida will defend the AEW Women's World Championship against Dr. Britt Baker at Double or Nothing. But speaking of Double or Nothing, we got to talk about everything involving the Elite. Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston defeated Kenny Omega and Michael Nakazawa in the opener of the show. This turned out to be a glorified handicap match outside of like the middle portion of the match, but Omega eventually left Nakazawa to take a lariat half and half suplex combination. After the match, the Elite jumped Mox and King, leading to Omega hitting the One Wing Angel on Eddie. Later in the show, we found out that Pac will meet Orange Cassidy in a number one contenders match, with the winner facing Omega at Double or Nothing for the AEW World Championship. This is 1 and 2 versus each other next week, and Omega mocked Cassidy being in the match. What are your guys' thoughts on next week's number one contenders match? And do you think AEW telegraphed Orange Cassidy winning at next week to set up the main event of Double or Nothing here? StatKing?
They absolutely telegraphed it. That segment went a little too long, and by a little, I mean it went a lot longer than it needed to go. And that's
it was a filler. That's why.
And the thing is, I feel like the show next week is so stacked that it doesn't, like, you have. We have the IWGP US title match. You have the tag team title match with SCU. You have all these different things that are happening that. You kind of can't. You can kind of afford to telegraph it that it's going to be Orange, who's going to beat Pac. But at the same time, it's just like you're kind of doing a disservice to Pac in that sense. Like, give the guy a fighting chance. If he had at least, I think if the promo had been the segment had been the same length, but Pac had come out.
Yes. Yeah.
Then it would have add a little bit more mystery to it and make him say something to that effect. Like, because he's beaten both of them. He's beaten both Orange and he's beaten Omega. Yeah. And so he could easily interject himself and say, well, I mean, I've beaten both of you. Why do you think he's going to be why are we talking about Orange Cassidy? And that's kind of what Omega was talking about, but I think if having Pac actually there would have made a bit of a difference.
Agreed.
I just felt that this segment went way too long. But I think it did a good job of kind of creating what will be the storyline going into this of Omega not feeling that Orange Cassidy is on his level. Krssi Luv, what did you think about this entire segment, and who do you think wins next week's number one contenders match?
I agree with everything StatKing said. Definitely was way too long, but it was you can definitely tell it was a filler because as they were getting the cage and everything together and ready. We already knew what it was when it started. Definitely, I was sitting there. I'm like, "Where is Pac? Like, why is he not here? Like, if we're having a number one contender match, why is only one of them here? And why is the champion talking to him like, I'm going to face you next week instead of like." Yeah. That's what I felt like it was. It's like I feel like it was a one-on-one between the two of them saying, "Yeah, we're going to fight next week. Blah blah blah. See you next week. Blah blah blah." And you take my glasses and you make me stand in and make me look like a dodo. and it's just like, so yeah, and of course we've seen what happened, which is unfortunate because I think Pac would have probably killed a crazy promo and made it a little bit better than what happened. You understand what I'm saying? So I think
unless they're doing a crazy swerve on us.
Right.
Who knows? But we kind of saw this last week after the Young Bucks defeated Seidel brothers, and then SCU interrupted them, and then they say SCU's in a number one contendership matchup this week. So obviously, SCU defeated Jurassic Express and Varsity Blondes and the Acclaimed in a 4-way to face the Young Bucks for the AEW World Tag Team titles next week. So this seems to be something that's been a theme over the last couple of weeks with AEW of them telegraphing or doing a promo segment maybe a week too early, it seems, with SCU last week.
And everything all the time.
It's actually pretty frustrating if you're one of the few people who watches Dark and Elevation, like myself. Cheap plug for Dark Power. But whenever there's an SCU match, it's obvious they're going to win because the next time SCU loses, they have to end as a team. They're not going to lose on TV in a contendership match. Like it doesn't make sense at all. So I'm guessing that next week there's going to be some kind of DQ finish or something like that, so they can get the actual title match at DON, and that's when they lose.
I think that next week, I think that this whole story ends. I think that SCU loses. I think the Young Bucks win, and because they didn't build this up on Dynamite for the last 4 months, so. it would kind of not feel as impactful if they went to Double or Nothing with this, because Double or Nothing, it's been seeming, and even last night it seemed even more, that they are building up Moxley and Kingston to verse the Young Bucks for the AEW World Tag Team titles, and that is a much bigger matchup with the stars involved than SCU versus the Young Bucks, which we've already seen. So I think that SCU is gonna split up next week. Maybe we get a Kazarian heel turn out of it, which I would be all for. But yeah, it seems like the end of this story is next week after this Fatal 4-Way with SCU winning. We also had Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page cut great promos on last week's attack on Sting and Darby Allin, which led to Allin attacking both men. However, they got the advantage, and Ethan Page threw Darby Allin down a flight of stairs in a crazy spot. Later on in the show, Miro revealed that he will get the next shot at the TNT Championship next week. So do you guys think, quick answer, yes or no, Miro, new TNT champion next week? Krssi?
No.
StatKing?
Game over.
I agree with StatKing. I think that Miro wins the TNT Championship next week. Cody Rhodes defeated QT Marshall in a surprisingly really good matchup, in my opinion. I thought that this could have been like a main event on any other week, because this was QT Marshall's like best match ever. But I've seen him in Ring of Honor. I've seen him in AEW. This is probably his best match ever. After the match, Anthony Ogogo attacked Cody, and that seems to set up Anthony Ogogo versus Cody at Double or Nothing, because Cody is going to make his announcement for Double or Nothing next week. So a lot of big things coming out of Blood and Guts, and a big stacked lineup for next week, with the TNT Championship on the line, the AEW World Tag Team titles on the line, Moxley versus Nagata for the IWGP US Championship, and Pac versus Orange Cassidy to determine who versus Omega at Double or Nothing. So we're gonna have the Double or Nothing picture look a lot clearer after next week. So we gotta move on to what else we missed this week, which was New Japan Pro Wrestling Dontaku days 1 and 2. Day 1 had StatKing's favorite, the Switchblade, Jay White, defeat Hiroshi Tanahashi to win the Never Openweight Championship and become the first quadruple crown champ in New Japan Pro Wrestling history, winning the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, the IWGP Intercontinental Championship, the IWGP US Championship, and now the Never Openweight Championship. He also teased challenging another belt collector. I wonder who he's talking about. Taishi defeated Tama Tonga in a ladder match to get possession of the Iron Fingers. Zack Sabre Jr. defeated Tonga Loa to gain himself and Taishi another shot at the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team titles. And then we had day 2 of Wrestling Dontaku, which had, right now, I would say, I didn't think it was possible after January 5th. But I have a new match of the year. Yes. Will Ospreay versus Shingo Takagi did it again. 44-minute classic main event with Will Ospreay getting the victory with the Stormbreaker to retain the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. This match had big moves, huge spots like Ospreay taking a Made in Japan off an apron through 2 tables. We had a callback to the New Japan Cup match where we're in the New Japan Cup finals. Ospreay flipped out of the pumping bomber lariat and then went into a Os Cutter. This time he flipped out of the pumping bomber lariat, went for the Os Cutter, but Shingo caught him with the cutter, and then in the end it was Ospreay just hitting a whole bunch of big moves. He hit a Rainmaker as a little mocking of his future challenger on May 29th, Kazuka Okada, and then he hit the Hidden Blade and then the Stormbreaker for the win. StatKing, what was your thoughts on this main event of day 2 of Wrestling Dontaku?
I think that they have found their new go-to match, like break in case of emergency kind of thing. Because so for those who don't know, certain people came. There is a third state of emergency that has been declared in Japan, specifically in Tokyo and other different parts of the country. And I mean, it's putting the potential of the Olympics in danger. But because of that, New Japan has canceled some events, and then also certain people didn't test positive for COVID, but they were having fevers, elevated temperatures, things like that. So out of we'll say an abundance of caution, New Japan pulled some people from the show. They rearranged things for, kind of doing things on the fly. The preliminary matches were not that bad, but it's almost as though New Japan is saying, break in case of emergency. We're like, it doesn't matter what happens in these preliminary matches. You give Ospreay and Shingo over 30 minutes, and they're going to save the show. And that's basically what they did. And this was a really, really good match. And one of the things that I like has been the slow shift, I would say, for Will Ospreay's character. You used to see like that kind of babyface fire and passion come out of him. But now that he's finally reached that mountaintop and he has the title that he always wanted, now there's like a new level of fire. Like, you talk about, we talk about murder Ibushi, but there was kind of like a murder Shingo and almost a murder Ospreay during this match, where they were just getting to the point where they were just throwing headbutts at each other because that's how badly they wanted to win. So awesome match. Can't say enough about that one.
Yeah, it just had everything. Hard-hitting spots, great sequences, really strong storytelling and psychology. Like, this is a must-watch match this year. I need everybody and their mama to watch Shingo versus Will Ospreay. Me and StatKing are gonna talk about it some more on the New Japan Pro Wrestling Dontaku roundtable with our good brother, the J News Japan, as we talk about everything that happened on day 1 and day 2. But we gotta move on to talk about NXT this week, as we saw them go up in ratings to 761,000 viewers this week. That's up from last week's 744,000. They were headlined by The Way of Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell, defeated Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart in a street fight to win the NXT Women's Tag Team titles. You also had Isaiah Swerve Scott beat Leon Ruff in what might be one of my favorite WWE TV matches this year. That Falls Count Anywhere match was so much fun. Thanks to interference from AJ Francis, Swerve got the win, and he introduced a new stable to NXT. Ciampa and Thatcher defeated the Grizzled Young Veterans. We also had Karrion Kross was confronted by Kyle O'Reilly, Pete Dunne, and Finn Balor as the next contenders for the NXT Championship, and then he was jumped by The Way of Austin Theory and Johnny Gargano, setting up Theory versus Kross next week on NXT. Miss Krssi Luv, what stood out the most for you this week on NXT?
Definitely the Swerve and Ruff match was. I knew I was like, they're gonna fight again. Great, but this one was, I think, the best out of all of them that they've had. Well, they've had 3 so far.
Yeah. Yep.
And this one, I mean, they had some crazy spots. It was one where I think he flipped Swerve, and he hit his head on the side of the ring. I was like, oh my god, he's gonna die. But I thought that was such a good match. I think that was one of my best ones. This is the best one they've had. Surprised that The Way won. The girls did a crazy job closing the show. Good shout out to them for closing the show and doing a great banger. Definitely didn't see them. I'm like, okay, they're gonna fight them again. And they won, which I was actually not mad about. Actually, I was happy that they won. So gonna make The Way another staple that's gonna be annoying and upset, which was gonna make everyone annoyed, but it'll be great for them, and it's gonna make Johnny Gargano run his mouth a little longer. So I think NXT did good this week. They didn't do bad. It was actually fair. If they keep doing it this way, they can get back to the NXT that we've loved. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a lot of people that said that this week reminded them of the NXT that they once loved, because, I mean, they bookmarked the show with really strong matches between the Women's Tag Team title match, Street Fight, and the Falls Count Anywhere match to start the show. They also had a really good match in the middle of the show with GYV versus Ciampa and Thatcher. I love the stuff with Cameron Grimes and Ted DiBiase.
Give me more of give me more of those vignettes. I need them all. I need them. Cameron again. I was never really a Cameron Grimes. He was like, nope. Another one like, nope. Give him a chance. And I was like, I love Cameron Grimes now. He's annoying as hell, and it's so
to the moon.
Give me one. Damn you, Ted DiBiase. Damn you.
Love it. Love it. Well, we also got to talk about Raw this week, which was,
No.
yes, it was up from last week of
All right,
1.7 million. They were up this week to 1.8 million. Bobby Lashley defeated Braun Strowman in the main event, with Drew McIntyre giving both men the Claymore afterwards. We also had Charlotte Flair beat Dana Brooke, and then was convinced Sonya Deville to add her to the Raw Women's Championship match at WrestleMania Backlash with Rhea Ripley and Asuka. We had Omos and AJ Styles defeat the New Day to retain the Raw Tag Team Championships. And then we got the return. Yes, the return the world has been waiting for. All red everything. All red everywhere. Eva Marie has returned to WWE. She promoted and said coming soon for the Evolution. A lot of people online did not like this, especially coming close after the releases of such WWE talent as Mickie James, the Iconics. I don't know about you. Before I pitch it over to you guys, ask you guys what you think about Eva Marie returning. I'm a fan of this, especially because how it sounds. It sounds like she's not going to be wrestling. It sounds like she might be more of a manager. And if she gives time to one of the lesser female talents and can give them her heat that she has gained over the years, and obviously by the response on social media she still has, I think that this will be a very well used person to have return right now. And I just feel like the overall vile and toxic response to Eva Marie, and people kind of insinuating that Eva Marie is the reason why they fired Mickie James and the Iconics. It just says you're a dumb wrestling fan, and it's just so far-fetched, and it doesn't acknowledge the fact that Eva Marie has been back with the company for months now. They just haven't used her yet on camera. Yeah. Even before when these people did have jobs, she was with WWE. So I think that the rationale of the complaints is just somewhere else. But StatKing, you don't watch WWE, but what is your thoughts on Eva Marie coming back to Monday Night Raw?
I'm glad that WWE is smart and put the all red everything on Raw as opposed to putting her on SmackDown, which would be a very WWE thing to do because SmackDown's blue. I'm just saying. They've done dumb shit like that in the past. So.
Yeah, many times.
I thought that I agree with you. I think Eva Marie is better as a manager. I thought that they would try to put her down in NXT, to be honest with you. And I thought they would try to partner her up with some of the Performance Center people, particularly Parker Boudreaux, because of everything that they posted on Instagram together when he was first talking about joining and then watching the Rumble with her. That's what I was hoping that they would go for with her. But I mean, it's not the end of the world. And if she does something to help out the women get more time, then I'm all for that. So I mean, you got to see how they're going to use her and how they're going to try to build with it. I mean, I won't be seeing it, but you guys will be able to see it.
That's fair. That is fair. Krssi Luv, what's your thoughts on Eva Marie returning?
I have to be honest. That was the point where I had walked away from the TV and went to I totally missed it, but then I had to rewatch it over, and I'm just telling you what happened. And I was like, oh, Eva Marie's back. Great. Okay. And then thought nothing of it. But the way it can be used, I think it's the evolution. I mean, a lot of people are up in Raw. I did see that, and, up in arms and everything. Whoa, 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 woo, woo, woo. But so much Eva Marie can do, guys. But use her as a manager. Use her, make us a little staple. Make her be, evil. Like she's used to being with other females in a group anyway. So they're most likely going to do the same thing with her. So use it. Let's see, get some more girls some shine and, make a group say, yeah, I can make you guys better. Let's see. Come roll with me. So let's see. Hopefully it'll make Raw a little bit better. We'll see,
one would hope. But yes,
Dana Brooke and, Mandy.
Oh man, I mean, I would just say Dana Brooke did not look that good against Charlotte. It doesn't look like she's improved that much since she was Charlotte's protege. But moving on,
I mean,
we,
I didn't understand the whole match anyway, and I'm like, poor Dana Brooke. She tried. She tried.
moving on, final thing what we missed was SmackDown this past week, which was one of the better episodes in my opinion. Of course, headlined by the huge main event of Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan for the WWE Universal Championship. And if Bryan lost, he was banished from SmackDown. Roman Reigns got the victory in a near 30-minute superb title match for the Universal Championship. So Daniel Bryan is officially banished from SmackDown following the match. Cesaro came in for a save, but is attacked by Jey Uso, leading to him tying Cesaro in the ropes to make him watch Roman concerto Bryan to write him off officially. And that flows very nicely into our top news story. So yes, our top news story is, of course, Daniel Bryan's WWE contract has expired, and WWE is pushing hard to re-sign him. A new report from Fightful Select reveals that Daniel Bryan's WWE contract either expired or was set to expire last week following his match with Roman Reigns on SmackDown. Before this, many speculated that his contract would expire in September because that was when he last signed with WWE. Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio reports that the contract actually expired at midnight on Friday following the matchup, and this is why Bryan consistently hinted at this past WrestleMania being his last since his contract expired just weeks later. The site notes that high-level sources both in and out of the company said that they'd heard of the expiration coming, but that Bryan hadn't spoke openly about his status. There have not been any big farewells backstage either, at least open ones. It is added that this doesn't mean Bryan is necessarily leaving WWE. It's possible that he's re-signed since or could work for WWE without a contract. Fightful notes that they have been told Bryan is very vocal about doing some unconventional work with and for the WWE. WWE has not officially confirmed Bryan's status either way, other than to move his profile to the alumni status on WWE.com, which they seem to do whenever there's a storyline leave WWE type of thing. Dave Meltzer reports that WWE wants to push hard to re-sign Daniel Bryan to avoid him going to another promotion, particularly All Elite Wrestling. So Miss Krssi Luv, what are your thoughts on Daniel Bryan's contract expiring without anyone outside of WWE really knowing of it?
That's the WWE way. That's what they do. Those are the things that they do. Not surprising at all. If he does resign, I don't see him being a full-timer. I see him just doing something more part-time. They just had a baby. Their baby's not even a year yet. And he hasn't been really around for most of that. So I'm sure he wants to be a homebody now and just be a family man and be with his children. So I don't see him foresee him being like a full-time. He can come back and do maybe like things here and there or whatever. But I'm sure if he doesn't even sign right now, he's just probably needs a rest. He's probably he had that whole injury. He came back from it. He wrestled how long has he been doing it now? 3 years?
Yeah.
Been back?
Yeah, he's been back since 2018.
It's probably taking a toll now. He just probably wants to rest and chill. So, I mean, WWE want to just keep everyone in just hanging by.
Yeah, of course.
So for them, they're just this is what they do. This is their way of is he or is he ain't? Well, you got to wait and find out. That's what they do. So I mean, I see him probably coming back. I just don't see him coming back full time.
Fair. StatKing, are you surprised that WWE didn't try to re-sign Daniel Bryan before his contract expired?
I'm pretty sure that I feel like they tried to. I feel like Bryan is serious about trying to do work with other companies. He is somebody who is he knows what his convictions are. And he also is somebody who I don't think he necessarily is in it for the money. No. He's in it for the love of the sport, for the love of wrestling. And he's made a lot of money despite not being interested in money. I mean, we're talking about we're talking about arguably the greatest talent of the past generation. I mean, you stack him up against anybody, and either he is at their level or he is better than them. Mm-hmm. And I would not be surprised because he has all these friends who are on the indies. He still has friends who are now in AEW or who are in other companies. Some of them recently released by WWE. And he sees what they are doing. He sees that Tony Khan is taking the forbidden door. He's not just opening it, he's taking it off of the hinges. And he's saying, why can't we do these things? Why can't we do these things? And that is definitely going to be in conflict with the way that WWE operates. So I think they definitely did try to re-sign him. I'm not surprised that he has not re-signed as of yet because I think he's pushing for something. But in the dream world that I'm allowed to live in my head, I have a Daniel Bryan, Samoa Joe, CM Punk triple threat match, all out September Chicago, and the roof just blows off the place. Actually, it's still warm enough. They could book Soldier Field and there would be no roof, so it'd be fine. But that's a place that would sell out. That would sell out immediately if you had the ability to do that. And there's just so many matches that Bryan could have. I mean, we're talking if he goes back to Ring of Honor, you have him Calamari Catch King. You have Jonathan Gresham just waiting right there. You have people like Jay Lethal. You have others in Ring of Honor who have developed over time. Roosh, when now Roosh is bringing in some of the others from CMLL, AAA with the Federation Wrestling. There's people there that Bryan has never really interacted with, but who are incredible talents. We have New Japan Strong. We have New Japan itself. There's just so many options for what Bryan could do. I think it would be a waste for him to limit himself with being somebody who is just basically putting over people in WWE just to see WWE waste the effort that he is putting into putting those people over.
So what do you guys say if I had to put a gun to your head or have you put good money on it, where do you see Daniel Bryan going next? Krssi Luv?
Ooh. I don't see him going overseas. I don't see that. Too far from his kids and his family. But it wouldn't be a bad idea. But most likely for StatKing, I would say go to AEW so he can have that big match so he can see it.
He's like, just for you.
Yep.
I mean, if they did a full-fledged Daniel Bryan CM Punk match, what we should have gotten at Over the Limit back in 2012, it'll be a great moment of Sid and I on opposing sides.
Do you think they can get CM Punk to agree to that though, or CM Punk is just content with life right now?
For Bryan, I think he could.
He's never coming back. He's never come back. Like, I'm gonna keep.
I think he's not gonna come back. I think he's just content with like what his life is right now. I think he's like, I don't know. I would love to see it, but I just think that he's probably like content with like life right now.
I only tolerate StatKing keeps saying that CM Punk could potentially come back because he lives in Chicago and that's what they put in the water over there. If you're a wrestling fan, you can have no thoughts about CM Punk, and then you take a sip of Poland Springs and you're like, CM Punk's coming back to AEW.
I am absolutely 100% just like CM Punk. I'm straight edge, except for the drugs that they put in the water that tell me that CM Punk is coming back.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That makes a whole lot of sense. But yeah, me myself, I think he's gonna go back to WWE. He's just gonna do more of a part-time deal. But I could potentially see him doing like a one-off or like a CMLL. He's always said that he wanted to do a match in Arena Mexico, and they run out of Arena Mexico. So him doing like one big show for CMLL before returning to WWE as a part-time star, I think is the most reasonable option for Daniel Bryan to do something outside of WWE. But I think eventually he will return as a part-timer.
I agree with you. Gun to my head, I say that he goes back to WWE, and the main reason why is that while Daniel Bryan does what he does for the love of wrestling, he also it's not even loyal to the company. It's he knows he has 2 kids, and the money is generational wealth with WWE if you are a top guy. And he's always going to be a big merchandise mover. He's always going to be in main events or near it. He's going to be making that kind of money, and you are setting your kids up for whatever it is that they want to. If they want to do basket weaving for the rest of their lives, they can do that with the kind of money that Daniel would be making with WWE.
Oh, so you agree with me that he's going to be a part-time SP?
I don't know what his schedule would be. I would assume part-timer, but I don't know. I wouldn't be able to talk about that. I don't know what crazy idea Vince would come up with. So,
but yeah, I definitely think part-timer for sure.
That just makes more sense to me. But speaking
of Brock Lesnar schedule.
I think he's going to be here more often than Brock Lesnar. But that's just me. We got to talk about the rest of our news, WWE news. Speaking of WWE and other companies, Wrestling Observer newsletter reports that WWE reportedly doesn't like the reputation that the company has that they won't work with anyone else in the modern wrestling world. According to the report, they are in talks with MLW, Major League Wrestling, for a deal similar to the one that they had with Evolve or with ECW in the 1990s, and the idea would be to send wrestlers to developmental who aren't working on NXT TV to MLW to get some more experience. There is also an idea in the company to create their own group like Evolve for a weekly streaming show, allowing the developmental talent to get more TV experience and more exposure than on Peacock. It is believed that either idea would also help with wrestlers on the roster who sign with WWE and are frustrated that they've never been used, especially since NXT doesn't have house shows at the moment. This would also make them appear to be changing and modernizing. WWE sees that other companies have been working together. Of course, we've all mentioned it a couple of times. AEW with Impact, AAA with New Japan and AEW, as well as Impact with MLW, and so on. They want to make it appear as though they aren't against the idea of working with other companies and uncooperative in the real world. While WWE has had this mentality in the past, particularly in the UK and Germany, the company is under new direction with President Nick Khan. And this kind of follows along with what a lot of people have been saying, that Nick Khan is more of a modern thinking president for the WWE to have. But StatKing, you watch Major League Wrestling on Fusion of Honor, MLW Fusion Weekly with Ness. What's your thoughts on a potential WWE MLW deal?
Yes, we my co-host and I, the three-time baby making champ. We talked about this a little bit on our most recent episode of Fusion of Honor, which you can always catch on our YouTube channel. But I think this is a look at the depths that WWE is willing to go just to make that bullshit lie that Hunter said a while ago not a lie anymore. Like this, it's a little ridiculous because you mentioned ECW and Evolve, and we saw how it happened with those companies. They just got bought out by WWE wholesale. This will help some of the talent on NXT that aren't getting TV time because WWE just wanted to sign a whole bunch of people, and they have a bloated roster on NXT, but it's just going to hurt the MLW talent. And like I said in the chat, I think somebody who, I guess Hammerstone and Jacob Fatu will benefit from having some more eyes on them, but I mean, we're just shortly removed from having Jacob Fatu be Roman's Samoan tribal chief, bodyguard / car driver for Paul Heyman and him when they arrived to the arena, and somebody for The Rock to get past at the fast lane before the WrestleMania when he and Roman finally face each other. It doesn't really help, and I think it's more of I think you can kind of see through it. That's really the problem. And I don't want to say, I'm not trying to say anything bad about Nick Khan, because it seems as though maybe his heart is in the right place, but he's running up against a level of stubbornness that is probably unprecedented in maybe the history of the world. But he's running against somebody who has done business a certain way for so long, he doesn't see a reason why he should do it differently. This is a guy who, when his father promised the regional promoters that his son would not compete with them and not buy them out and not put them out of business, and then his son, once he took over the company, promptly did exactly that. I get it, yeah, you don't necessarily have to follow the same promises that your old man made, but like, it was a testament to how ruthless Vince is, and it's just a matter of time before they just buy out MLW. You're adding to the tape library, which helps your negotiations next go around with Peacock. So that's where the real money is.
Makes sense. What would you think about an MLW WWE deal, and would you see it as beneficial to MLW, Miss Krssi Luv?
I don't know if I would see it as a beneficial thing, because I feel like WWE would probably try to take over everything in their natural fashion, and then those people might get lost in the shuffle, even though they're like, yeah, we're opening this door, but I don't see you promoting or trying to make sure that their talent get seen. I feel like it's more so for you guys to say, hey, yes, we're doing this too. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, we're doing this, we're trying to change and evolve, but I don't really think it'll work, because they're going to want to just take over and do everything the WWE way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's just basically what a lot of people don't understand. You know, there's going to be people that are very positive and think of this as a opening of a forbidden door for WWE, but we've seen this before. You need to learn from history, not continue to repeat it. ECW, they used them. They gave them money. Great. They helped support them for a couple of years. But in the end, they purged them and took the best stars for themselves. Evolve. They literally purged them, raped them, and then left them to dead. So in a pandemic, they had to close down. And now everyone that worked at Evolve works for NXT. And now they want to do an NXT Evolve. Like, what are we going to get? Major League NXT. That's what I think the goal is with this whole deal with WWE and MLW, in my opinion. If you don't learn from the past, you're born to repeat it.
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah. No.
PW Insider reports that Randy Orton and Matt Riddle will continue teaming as RK Bro for the foreseeable future and are expected to get a sizable push. The team is not planned to be a short-term deal, and merchandise will be released soon, which I will be rocking right here on Tru Heel Heat, because RK Bro is the best thing about Monday Night Raw right now. It's the best thing.
And those little comments he'd be saying, I don't think things like the little backstage. Those are great, man. Like, bro, chill out. I got this the paper I got from RVD. Just chill, dude. So good.
Love Riddle.
That's the only good part, though. Yeah, that's the only good part.
The Wrestling Observer newsletter reports that the latest word in WWE regarding live events is that were some hints that the company wants to get back on the road in June. The talent was told August or late July. However, it was noted that if AEW is set to start in July, WWE will move their start date up, as they want to do everything they can to make sure AEW doesn't do it first.
But WWE is gonna be great partnering with MLW. Oh yeah, sure.
See?
However, they also want to be cautious and not rush the situation to avoid any mistakes.
That is a huge cup, friend.
Speaking of live events, PW Insider reports that Adam Pearce is now the director of live events for WWE. That position used to be the person who was in charge of live events, touring, creative, and lineups. So this may mean that WWE is getting closer to a return in touring. Michael Hayes had been in charge of this in the past, but he has been moved to producing several of the main event matches and angles for Roman Reigns on SmackDown. Pearce will also continue to produce matches and oversee the other producers with Jason Jordan. Both men would report to John Laurinaitis. But yes, Fightful Select did spoke with Steve Cutler, the recent release star from the Forgotten Sons, who revealed that he and Wesley Blake traveled to the WWE Performance Center after the tweets to make amends with the talent. Riker did not make the trip. Cutler said that while he and Blake were in Florida, Riker relocated to North Carolina. According to Talent, Cutler and Blake tried to separate themselves from the situation, and there was initially no heat on them. But speaking of Steve Cutler, he revealed to Fightful as well as Chelsea Green that they were told by WWE to not line up outside of Vince McMahon's office to pitch creative ideas. Basically, the story goes that there would be so many people outside of Vince's office that WWE officials would tell them to wait in catering and tell them they would let them know when Vince is ready to talk to them. There were several times Steve Cutler described that he was just stuck in catering, waiting, and he was never brought to speak to Vince McMahon, and he was told that Vince McMahon didn't have time to speak to him. They then were later informed to not line up outside of Vince McMahon office, and that they would have to set up time through like emails and whatnot to speak with Vince McMahon. So very interesting story coming out about Vince not wanting people lined up outside his office. When discussing Yeah, I mean, I think we all believe that. When discussing the WWE Network, the former commentator Scott Stanford revealed that the initial idea revolved around the company wanting to present it like a TV network, which could have led to them hosting a show similar to SportsCenter. That's a very interesting note about the former WWE Network. In an interview with Cokeaholic, Chelsea Green discussed some of her ideas she pitched to creative, like being the third iconic for a Trey iconic stable. She also pitched being a sexy nun to Seth Rollins' Messiah's gimmick last year.
Oh.
She also had ideas to be paired up with the Dirty Dogs, as well as the Miz and Morrison, which, of course, were all shut down. And we also talked about previously Chelsea Green pitch being a crazy stalker fan of Mickie James for a complete 180 of the storyline that Mickie James came into the WWE with.
Yeah.
And then the final news note is Mick Foley wrote on Twitter, referencing the recent comments of Mickie James. He tweeted this: "Dear Vince, an all-women's brand needs to happen in WWE, unless you want AEW to beat you to the punch. Sincerely, Mick." A lot of other superstars like Lance Storm came out and said the negatives of that would be like taking some of the top stars off of Raw and SmackDown for this lesser show, or putting, the women that aren't getting TV time on the WWE Network when they could be on USA or Fox, which is going to have more eyes on them. So it's a very interesting discussion, and definitely something that's going to be talked about for weeks to come. AEW news: SE Scoops revealed this past week that Tessa Blanchard and her husband Daga were in talks with AEW to sign with the promotion, saying that them signing was an all but for a formality. According to Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio, AEW is not having talks with Tessa Blanchard. He stated, "I do have to make mention before we go that AEW is not negotiating with Tessa Blanchard. I know people keep asking me about this, but in fact, there's nothing to it. So that's the deal." PW Insider also weighed in on this story. According to Mike Johnson's report, per a number of sources in AEW, there have not been any discussions with either Blanchard or Daga, so either of them will not be debuting anytime soon for AEW. Additionally, PW Insider reports that AEW never made offers to either talent, and there haven't been any discussions about storylines for them in the promotion. It should be noted that this contradicts the Wrestling Observer newsletter report earlier this year that AEW was in talks with Daga, however. Bully Ray had some interesting comments about AEW this week, but just to kind of talk about that last news note, Miss Krssi Luv, how would you feel if AEW were to sign Tessa Blanchard?
You guys, my feelings on Tessa Blanchard as it is already.
I know. So I'm not asking you your thoughts on Tessa Blanchard. I'm asking you, how would you feel if AEW signed Tessa Blanchard?
I mean, good for her, I guess. I just hope it doesn't overshadow the current girls that are on that roster, because if they've been doing a good thing with building up the women that they currently have right now. So I don't know. Gee whiz, because most likely she's gonna go there since they already got what's the name? What's more? I think she's probably
Talia.
Yeah, she's most likely gonna go to AEW. How do I feel? I just hope that she doesn't I hope it doesn't foreshadow Jade and Britt. I feel like these girls been doing their thing over there so far. I don't know, man. I'm just you guys know. Oh God, I just don't want her to mess up the current girls that are currently there. That's what I'm trying to say, I guess. Because most likely that's where she's gonna go. I gotta see over this on AEW.
Hey, think about it some more. Maybe we'll talk about it next week.
Yeah, we'll have more time. I mean, I'm not gonna be happy about it, but I'm still gonna watch the product, I guess. It's evolving women's wrestling, so I have to be happy about that. That's what I can say.
StatKing, how would you feel if AEW signed Tessa?
I mean, she's an instant star boost, but I don't know if the potential backstage issues would
foreshadow it.
Yeah, would be worth the
headache.
Worth the headache. That's really, I think, my key takeaway, because she's rubbed so many people the wrong way, and she's done other promotions dirty, that you're always running the risk of her doing that to you, and you're running the risk of other talent who you may want to bring in being less interested in working with you, knowing that she's there and knowing that you may need to, they may run afoul of her. Let's not forget what happened with Ivelisse. It's a very similar situation.
Maybe her dad is I'll take care of it. She's gonna be fine.
Maybe that's a way to kind of control the situation a little bit better. I just want to say that I feel bad for Daga out of all of this, because it's not his it's not like he loves her and he's married to her, and that's not his fault in that sense. You can't help who you love, but it's going to be difficult for him to get a job with Impact because of her. It's going to be difficult for him to get a job with AEW because of her. I don't know how many other promotions there are really for him. I guess maybe Ring of Honor, because of that Roosh connection and that just CMLL, AAA, they all know each other. But because of everything that's happened, it's difficult for him to get a Western promotion to be behind him, and he's a really good talent. So
he is. It's a shame, but it's seeming more and more that their future is in Mexico with a AAA, a CMLL, or even Federacion. We got Bully Ray talking about AEW on Twitter this week, and this follows his recent comments being very critical of AEW coming off as an indie to him. His new criticism for the promotion, in particular their treatment of the Impact World Title, tweeting last night or after AEW Blood and Guts: if I'm management or owners of Impact Wrestling, I'd be effing fuming that their World Heavyweight Championship was being carried out by Naka Nobody and not at least over the shoulder of Omega. Perception is reality. Hashtag AEW Dynamite. Do you agree, StatKing? You've watched Impact Wrestling before. Did you think that it was a shot at Impact Wrestling for Nakazawa to hold the Impact World Title on AEW Blood and Guts?
Absolutely not. The same way that it was not a shot at AAA for them to have Nakazawa holding that title. I don't see how it's a shot at all. It just reinforces the belt collector storyline. If he was wearing the AEW title here, and then he's holding both the Impact and the TNA World Heavyweight Championships, then Nakazawa's carrying the AAA championship, and that could be definitely then maybe seen as a shot at AAA. They tried to do thread the needle and do the best job that they could, considering the fact that it's not his fault that goddamn Impact has two title belts representing their world title. That's not his fault. So they're doing the best they can with that.
I think that Bully Ray's getting worked. I think that's the whole point. The whole point is for him to have Nakazawa hold all the other titles and him only wear the AEW World title. That's the only title that he cherished. Everything else is just a trophy. It's just him collecting his favorite comic books, like he said in the original promo.
And that's the other thing about it is that the guy he's working with and who is part of the brainchild for this entire storyline, Don Callis, is the fucking president of Impact. So if anybody is going to take it a bad way, it would be the Impact management, who is Don Callis, who's clearly okay with this happening. So I don't know, Bully, just you gotta sit down on this one. Take a step back.
Isn't he always like an instigator though? Like he's always like putting himself into shit that he doesn't even belong into. So
yeah, that seems to be Bully's forte. Tony Khan made an announcement to the fans at Blood and Guts that the first half of the show was taped and the crowd would be the noise for the matches. Anyone who didn't think having one match live was right was able to get a refund, with Dave Meltzer reporting that AEW gave 5 individual fans refunds for AEW Blood and Guts.
5?
Yeah, it was 5. Literally, there's a lot of different sites, and no offense to them, but they're just saying fans get refund at AEW Blood and Guts, and not putting the detail that it was only 5 fans in the headline, because not that many people's gonna click if you put only 5 fans got a refund. So I understand it. But the last bit of AEW news is Tony Khan also announced on Busted Open Radio that Double or Nothing will be at full capacity with 5,500 fans in attendance at Daly's Pace. Yes. New Japan. I'm looking forward to it.
Watching from your own space in your house, that's what, but you know.
Hey, the crowd sounded great for Blood and Guts, so I'm expecting a hot crowd for Double or Nothing as well.
That's true, you're right.
In a surprising challenge at the AAA Raid the Raid show, it was former WWE superstar Andrade appearing and making a challenge to none other than Kenny Omega for the AAA Mega Championship at Triple Mania 29 in probably what's going to be one of the most anticipated matches in AAA in a long time, and definitely of 2021. We will definitely keep you posted on the latest regarding Andrade versus Omega coming up at Triple Mania 29.
New Japan Pro Wrestling news. Major changes occurred to day 2 of Wrestling Dontaku, with 2 wrestlers testing positive for COVID-19. The wrestlers were involved in a 6-man tag team match with Chaos and Suzuki-gun. The day prior, it was Kazuka Okada and Roppongi 3K versus Kanemaru, El Desperado, and Minoru Suzuki. We don't know who the 2 wrestlers that tested positive was, but they kept all those wrestlers off the show since they were all a part of a match the day prior. Following Wrestling Dontaku, New Japan Pro Wrestling officially announced that Will Ospreay will defend the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship against Kazuchika Okada in a rematch of Wrestle Kingdom 15 on May 29th at Wrestling Grand Slam back in the Tokyo Dome. So a huge main event for that show, and what should be another classic matchup from Will Ospreay this year, who I feel has pretty much summed up the most outstanding wrestler of 2021 already, and we're not even.
Do you think he's gonna be like Wrestler of the Year? Maybe
Wrestler of the Year is different to me. He's the most outstanding. I feel like he's the best wrestler in the world right now, but I won't say he's the biggest star in wrestling. I think the biggest star in wrestling is between Kenny Omega and Roman Reigns, but Will Ospreay is just like, he's like one tier below them in that he's the best wrestler right now.
Okay.
Chris Jericho recently commented on the potential AEW versus New Japan angle on the Saturday Night's Main Event podcast, with him saying that it would need to push to major events in places like Tokyo Dome, Madison Square Garden, and Staples Center. He even talked about something like Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho versus Tanahashi and Okada could main event one of those shows. New Japan Pro Wrestling president Takami Obari commented on New Japan working with other promotions as well, saying, if you want to be in New Japan Pro Wrestling and you're good enough, the door is open. Come in, come do what you can do, and we'll make sure the world can watch it. That goes for the fans too. If there's a match you guys want to see, we'll do what we can to make it happen.
That's beautiful.
Absolutely. Impact Wrestling news. Scott D'Amore announced on the latest Impact on Access TV that there will be a 6-way match at Under Siege on May 15th to determine the first challenger for Kenny Omega's Unified Impact World Championship, with Chris Bay defeating Jake Something, Matt Cardona defeating Brian Myers, and Sami Callihan defeating Eddie Edwards by disqualification, being the first to qualify. 3 more spots will be filled this week on Impact on Access TV. Also announced, Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers will face Eddie Edwards and Finn Juice for Under Siege, so that should be a hell of an Impact Plus special. And Impact Wrestling has announced a new deal with Samsung Plus that will see the company bring its content to video on demand as well as get its own channel on Samsung Plus.
And for all you guys saying what was the benefit of the Forbidden Door, I don't think that Samsung Plus deal happens without the higher ratings, TV and pay-per-view buys that Kenny Omega and AEW have brought to Impact.
Thank you, sir. I keep seeing people still ask, like, what is Impact getting out of this? What is Impact getting out of this? Eyes to their product, new deals being made. It's like
Kenny Omega single-handedly took their pay-per-view buys back to the same level it was when Hulk Hogan was around.
Yes, when they were on Spike TV, which gets a hell of a lot more people watching than Access TV does today. ROH news, your land over there, StatKing, we had Tony Deppen defeat Tracy Williams to win the ROH World Television Championship, as well as Maria Kanellis announced Roxy as the first entrant in the women's title tournament. What was your thoughts on the new TV champion, StatKing?
Ness and I have been talking about how a group called Violence Unlimited has a guy sticking out like a sore thumb in the form of Tony Deppen, but he has started to fit in the violence of, if the violence is unlimited, I guess it's that mentality is kind of rubbing off from Brody King and Homicide and Chris Dickinson, people who would actually murder somebody, I would assume, on Tony Deppen. And good to see Tony finally pulling out a big one and beating Tracy Williams for that title.
Absolutely. Congratulations to him. A huge win, the biggest win of his ROH career. And in our final news notes, on her new 50 Shades of Green podcast, congratulations to Chelsea Green on her new podcast. She talked in depth about the trash bag incident, revealing that her fiance, Matt Cardona, was extremely pissed at WWE for her receiving a trash bag, and that her trash bag didn't even contain her belongings. It actually contained those of Natalia.
What?
Her gear and
oh
boots.
My God! Like,
how do you confuse those two? Like, one has maple leaves all over it and is pink, and the other is not either of those two things.
So now do I call Natalia and say, hey girl, they accidentally sent me your stuff in the mail, like, you want to come over and get it and let's chat? Or like, do you want me to ship it back to you? Like, what's the next like conversation between the two? Even if maybe Natty didn't even talk to her. I don't know. It was like, what do I now do with this box of stuff where's my stuff at? Did you send me my stuff yet? Like,
that's just funny. Like, it's just maple leaf gear and cat toys. She's like, well, I don't know what's going on. Like, what's...
Oh man, I just found that hilarious, so I had to mention it here. And then a final news note, once again going back to StatKing's expertise, former Lucha Underground boss and El Jefe of Azteca Underground, Dario Cueto, made his debut for MLW at the end of their season finale of MLW Fusion. The GOAT, authority figure. Yes, I said it. The greatest of all time authority figure, Dario Cueto, is back in professional wrestling, and I'm very happy to hear about it. You can hear what StatKing thought about it, as well as with Ness on the next Fusion of Honor. And you guys got a lot to unpack, because this MLW Fusion was honestly one of the better episodes that I was able to catch, because I don't always catch them, but when I do, it's usually decent, but not that much goes on. This one had a lot going on in it. So
it absolutely did. Absolutely did. And I will say that Leo Rush, I feel bad for you, my guy. You did a lot of work to get out of that WWE contract, and WWE said, no, it is not. You think it's rush hour? You're going to rush right back over here, boy. Come back to this performance center right now. Right now.
Exactly.
You're going to have to do rap songs with, what's the guy's name? Josiah Bell?
Yeah.
you and him are going to be the new entrance theme for Bronson Reed. Let's go.
There you go. That works.
Yeah.
But that brings us to our final segment. Next week we got our big WrestleMania Backlash review preview ahead of that pay-per-view. This is the first pay-per-view post WrestleMania, so we decided, the host here, StatKing, Miss Krssi Luv, and myself, we are going to introduce a new segment to Tru Heel Heat. Instead of our countdowns as we did on during the whole pandemic, we did a whole countdown of all the SummerSlams, all the WrestleManias, all the Money in the Bank cash-ins. I decided to do something a little bit new, which is Mount Rushmore, because on this week's Wrestling Daily, me and Louis Dangor, instead of a regular debate as we do on Wednesdays, we did a Mount Rushmore of Daniel Bryan rivals, where I said the Mount Rushmore is Nigel McGuinness, The Miz, Triple H, and Roman Reigns. Louis said it was The Miz, Kane, Kofi Kingston, and who was the final person? The Authority as a whole. So it was a cool little conversation. So I decided to bring that to Tru Heel Heat and propose the question of what is the four best, the Mount Rushmore of classic WWE post WrestleMania pay-per-views. This has to be a pay-per-view immediately following the WrestleMania, because StatKing had an interesting question of, does SummerSlam count in like 1994? No, it does not count. We are only starting from 1995.
It's the lawyer in me. I got to try to find the loophole.
I see 1995 on. What is the Mount Rushmore of classic WWE post WrestleMania pay-per-views? StatKing, kick us off.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go with. I'm starting us off with the In Your House 14 Revenge of the Taker. This one has that main event of Stone Cold going up against Brett. The match ends in a DQ, but it's a great continuation of the WrestleMania feud and kind of cementing that double turn. And I really enjoyed that one, as well as the Undertaker with Mankind. Yeah. That title match, that was really good to me. I also put up here the this one might be a little off, but the Extreme Rules 2010. It's John and Batista in the Last Man Standing match.
Yes.
And part of the reason why I think this is great is because of John's ingenuity to duct tape Batista's legs so that he can't get up for a 10 count. We also saw Sheamus versus Triple H in that Extreme Rules match, and this. Why this stands out to me is because I was just sitting there thinking to myself, why couldn't Sheamus just beat Hunter at Mania and save us all the trouble of, when the bright lights are on you, let's give Sheamus the win as opposed to having Hunter go over. My next one was Extreme Rules from 2012. Because of the Punk Jericho street fight, as well as Brock Lesnar's first return match in, what was it,
Okay, so we have one almost
8 years or something. I think it was 8 years. There's something to that effect of Brock Lesnar's return. And my final one, I'm going to go with this one, just kind of a bit of a homer pick, just because I was there, was Extreme Rules 2015, and that is Seth Rollins taking on Randy Orton in a steel cage for the WWE title, and then Roman Reigns, Big Show, Last Man Standing match. And then this was also kind of funny because it's 56 minutes long, but it's Dean Ambrose versus Luke Harper in a street fight where they start in the arena and then they leave the arena and they're showing them fighting all over the place and then eventually coming back. So those are my four.
Wow, I did not expect that. That was an interesting.
That last one was a good one, yeah.
Yeah, that was one I did not see coming. So I like your choices. They're all different, pretty much from mine. And I don't know about Krssi, but we're about to find out. Krssi, what is your Mount Rushmore of classic WWE post WrestleMania pay-per-views?
So I have at number 4. I have Extreme Rules 2011. We had the ladder match. We had Orton and Punk, and we had Miz, John, and Morrison all in a steel cage. You had 3 matches that didn't go bad at all, to be honest. So that was my number 4. Number 3, I have Backlash 2009. going a little way back a little bit. We had the Edge and Cena match, and I think we also had the legacy. We had Legacy versus Triple H, Batista, and Shane. Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Those were bangers, especially the Last Man Standing match. I thought was great. I think a lot of these have got Cena in a bunch of them. Has everyone got Cena in most of their picks? I think, right?
No.
No,
I only have Cena in 2 of mine, I think.
It was in 2 of mine as well.
Okay. I think I got Cena in Cena's in 3 of mine. But I see a lot of John Cena's like going back. You threw a curveball at these ones for me, man, because I'm like, damn. I remember the Raws after it, but not the pay-per-views. But thanks for this, though, friend.
You're welcome.
Then I have number 2. Excuse me, Extreme Rules 2012. So me and StatKing got a slimmer one. We have the Jericho Punk. We have Cena and Brock. Yep. Definitely one of my favorites when he came back. And then my last one, I think, is Backlash 2004. We seen the Legend Killer Born, and we had what was it? Damn it! Why am I losing my train of thought now? But mostly for the Randy Orton and Foley match. Definitely that one. One of my favorites. There you go.
So me and Krssi actually like did relate on a lot of these. I will say I'll give you credit, Krssi. Great job. They're talking about those, but yeah, we agreed on most of ours. Coming in, I'll start from the latest and work my way to the oldest. So First one I would say is Extreme Rules 2012. Totally agree with y'all guys. That Brock versus Cena match was a must watch and was so unique at the time with the Brock bloodied Cena, but it also had the Punk and Jericho match, which was better than their WrestleMania 28 matchup, and of course Sheamus and Daniel Bryan got the match that they should have got at WrestleMania 20 in the 2 out of 3 falls. Backlash 2009 is my next one. That Cena versus Edge Last Man Standing match. That is really the ending of their long-term feud that started all the way back in 2006. It has the great finish with the Big Show giving Cena the chokeslam through the spotlight. But this show also has a bunch of good matches. You have Jeff and Matt in, I think it's like a Extreme Rules or no disqualification matchup that is better than their WrestleMania 25 match. So yeah, a bunch of great matches on this card. Like you said, the 6-man with the McMahons and Triple H versus Legacy. So good stuff all around here with Backlash 2009. Another one that you said, Backlash 2004. The double main event, in my opinion, is just out of this world, with Randy Orton becoming a star against Mick Foley in the hardcore matchup that really put Randy Orton on the map and led to him becoming the youngest world heavyweight champion later that year. Benoit, Michael, Triple H tore it up in the main event with Chris Benoit beating Shawn Michaels with the sharpshooter in Canada, which I thought was a fabulous and a smart finish to that match. It was just great. But the la creme de la creme, the GOAT, WrestleMania, post-WrestleMania pay-per-view by a country mile is Backlash 2000. Backlash 2000, The Rock versus Triple H is my favorite B-level pay-per-view main event ever. This is attitude. This is the Attitude Era in a nutshell, right there, with The Rock on top, Triple H feuding with him, Triple H with the whole McMahon-Helmsley era. This was following Vince McMahon turning on The Rock at WrestleMania 2000, and this was really the main event that we should have got at WrestleMania 2000.
Yeah.
You got the return of Stone Cold Steve Austin in this match with one of the biggest pops ever. And there's a couple of like hidden gems on this card. You have Benoit versus Jericho 1-on-1. You got Dean Malenko versus Scotty 2 Hotty, which is both men's greatest WWE match of their careers. Backlash 2000 is one of the best years ever in terms of pay-per-views for the WWF, and I say Backlash is either number 1 or number 2 out of all the pay-per-views that they had this year. It's just everything that the Attitude Era and 2000, in my opinion, is the greatest year ever for WWF. And if I had to pick one pay-per-view to watch, Backlash would probably be in there, right there. So that is my Mount Rushmore. But great job by everybody. And of course, for all of you watching Tru Heel Heat, let us know in the comment section below your Mount Rushmore of post-WrestleMania pay-per-views. Did you like our list? What did you think of our list? And let us know your own in the comment section below. But that brings us to the end of another edition of Tru Heel Heat. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us on this edition. And of course, check out the rest of the lineup on the Tru Heel Heat YouTube channel. I have 2 exclusive interviews with the Hitman for Hire, Mr. Grimm, as well as Savannah Evans, previewing Battle Club Pro, May the Franchise Reign. So check those out. You could check out StatKing on Fusion of Honor, as well as Dark Power. We have a new AE recap that's up. Check out our A&E biography reviews of the Macho Man Randy Savage, Roddy Piper, and Stone Cold Steve Austin that you guys are supporting so much. Thank you for that. And Krssi Luv, tell the fine folks where they can find you on social media.
They can find me on the Tru Heel Heat, the Tru Heel Heat page with my boy SP and JJ every week. I am on Facebook, Twitter, and on IG. The station Miss Krssi Luv or Krssi Luv _ just Miss Krssi Lynch.
And StatKing, thank you so much for filling in this week on Tru Heel Heat 124. Please tell the people they can find you on social media and the Tru Heel Heat YouTube channel.
You can catch me on Dark Power covering AEW Dark, Elevation, and NWA Power. You can always catch me on Fusion of Honor with my co-host, the three-time baby-making champ Ness. And you can catch me in all the various different Facebook groups getting into fun conversations with you guys, like the gentleman the other day who tried to tell me that WWE went from Wednesdays to NXT went from Wednesdays to Tuesdays because WWE said they wanted to do it and that they were saying that it was an imaginary war, so that means it is an imaginary war. I don't know, man. Maybe you don't know that hockey exists and that NBC Sports and but that's what I'm here for. I'm here to educate you guys and show you guys stats, information, give you the things that you need to know to be a better educated wrestling fan.
And we appreciate you for that always, sir. But yes, you can see him on an all-new Dark Power that's up right now. You can see him on Fusion of Honor as well. We'll have a new NX3. I'll be on AE Recap with Jimmy Macaram and Marcus Cash, reviewing in depth Blood and Guts. So check out all that great content as well as my contributions on other YouTube channels like Wrestling Daily with myself and Louis Dan Gore talking about the Mount Rushmore of Daniel Bryan rivals. Powered for SP3 with myself and John Scott talking about Ospreay and Shingo and the rest of everything going on in the wrestling world. I'll have my pay-per-view preview for WrestleMania Backlash coming up next week on the Sportskeeda Wrestling YouTube channel, and I can announce here that we will have Pete Quinnell of Wrestle Talk as my co-host on that preview, so that should be a lot of fun. And of course, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Tru Heel Heat. You can follow the Tru Heels on Facebook on our group page. Follow our friends at Battle Club Pro, Wrestling Travel, Warrior Wrestling, Mission Pro Wrestling on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And of course, all their YouTube channels. Go over and subscribe to Wrestling Daily as we approach 15,000 subscribers, and we will have Quizzlemania War Games when we hit that mark. Check out the YouTube channels for Jimmy Macaram and Marcus Cash, as well as push the like button for this video. Share this video with all your wrestling fans, friends, and family. Of course, if you're new to the Tru Heel Heat YouTube channel, smash the subscribe button, hit the bell to stay notified. If you're listening to Tru Heel Heat on your favorite audio podcast platform, make us one of your favorites, give us a review, and you can be a part of the Tru Heel Heat community. And of course, follow Tru Heel Heat on Powered 4 TV. So, until Tru Heel Heat 125 next week, for the beautiful, the lovely Miss Krssi Luv, for our special guest, the one, the only man of 1,004 numbers, the StatKing. It is me, your Tru Heel Phenom SP3. This has been Tru Heel Heat 124. We are signing off until next time.